Well, good evening, everybody. Meteorologist Joe Chaffee on this Thursday night, the last day of the month of February. 2019 is moving right along here. We're 2 months down and 10 to go. And Robert Brown, you made a very good analysis of the graphic that was up as we waited for the live stream to get going. Yes, it is meteorologically speaking, it is a very, very messy map indeed. We've got a lot of weather systems in play here, and they're all going to have impact, particularly the one tomorrow night that'll be moving off the Delaware coast and heading out to the east-northeast. That, I think, is a very, very important factor in how the system for Sunday behaves. 3 weather systems in play, the weakest one coming through tonight. The next one is tomorrow night into early Saturday morning. And then we have the third one, which is for later Sunday and Sunday night. And of course, these systems are all having impacts in other areas, and we're going to examine that as well. So before we get started, I just want to do a little bit of quick business, and then we'll get going. So for those of you who would like to find a way to support this channel, there is a very easy way to do it. And that's if you shop on Amazon. There's a link on the descriptor to this live stream, the descriptor to this video. And if you shop on Amazon, Amazon throws me back a little bit of coin, not out of your pocket, but out of theirs. And it's a great, simple way to support my channel. We are a member of the Amazon.com affiliates program, which is designed for as a means for this channel to earn fees from Amazon. You use the search bar and get what you want, and Amazon sends me back a few stogies. Also, for those of you who are interested in perhaps expanding your weather experience, let me just invite you to my weather platform on Patreon. It's just $2 a month. We do a lot of extra stuff that you don't see on my Facebook page or on my website. And we also do live streams just for Patreon members. Usually we do those in the earlier part of the day. And again, this starts at just $2 a month. Also, great, easy way. Not only do you support what I'm doing, but you also get a lot of extra weather, and you can message me at any time. And one last thing, for those of you who have not done so, you can download my weather app on Google Play or on the App Store. Okay, just go and search Meteorologist Joe Chaffee, and you'll be front and center in good shape. Okay, so let's hope that my system isn't freezing up on me here, as it likes to do sometimes. So give me 1 second. Okay, a little bit of a technical glitch. So let me come back to this. We'll go to that national map in a moment. I want to start off with the Weather Prediction Center's rainfall forecast map, because as I've said, these guys are pretty good, and they are doing things in a rather unbiased way, and you can at least get some clues sometimes as to what they're thinking with regards to some of these weather systems going forward. And if you look at the way the precip is arced across the United States, it really pretty much describes the current state of the jet stream being rather flat from west to east. And of course, big impacts in the west. We've got our storm, our Sunday system is coming ashore in California, and that is going to be moving eastward and eventually impacting the eastern part of the United States. But in California, we are seeing, WPC showing some rather heavy precip amounts up in the Sierra Nevadas. Very heavy snows forecast there. We'll look at the winter storm watches and warnings in a moment, but very heavy snows and heavy rains near the coast on the order of 5 inches or more over the next 7 days. And then, of course, in the east, with these 3 weather systems, you have that area of rain. If you see how it's oriented, that heavy rain, the 1.5 inch plus line through southeastern Virginia, and then off the Delaware coast and south of 40 and 70, that's where WPC might be thinking that the surface low could be going. as far as Sunday system is concerned. So it's interesting that they have it set up this way. Rainfall amounts, the bright blue is 1.25 to 1.5 inches, and that lies just south of the South Shore of Long Island through central New Jersey. Now remember, there are the event tonight is not as big a deal. Tomorrow night's might be a producer of about 1/2 inch of precip. So that leaves WPC thinking that maybe we'll put up another 3/4 for the system Sunday night into Monday. That kind of hints to me that they're not so sure how far north that warm boundary is going to be, because you would think if they thought the warm boundary was going to be up in southern New England and in through southeastern New York and through northern New Jersey, that they would put us in the 2-inch total plus amounts, but they're not doing that. So I haven't read their discussions. And I also haven't read any of the snow discussions that they do. So I'm not sure what they're thinking of. Their thinking is regarding their longer-term forecast with the snowfall in the east. But nonetheless, at least you're getting a flavor of what their rainfall idea is going to be. So we'll going to move to the SPC's Storm Prediction Center's map tonight, and not because there's any severe weather threat, because there isn't, but the Weather Service seems to be having problems with their radars that are set up as GIFs. So something stopped working there last night, and I think they need somebody to go in there and fix whatever it is they need to fix to get them going again. So in the meantime, even this one actually on the radar, it's wrong. So even their radar is not working. So there's something amiss at the Weather Service. I'll pull up some local radars in a different way in a moment. But here's the satellite. Now those are working, thankfully, and the cloud structure that you see is a little more imposing looking than it actually is. The clouds that are in the western Gulf, and that is the second area, that second shortwave that's going to come up for tomorrow night into Saturday morning. The lead area are the clouds that are up in the Ohio Valley and now moving across Pennsylvania and into southern New England. So that's the system that's coming in for tonight, and it is the weaker of the two systems. And if you look off the west coast, I'm going to try and let me get a. Forgot to do this, so let's get the satellite. Oh, I did forget, by the way. I want to let my app folks know that we're on live. So I sent out their notification. So you get notified on the app when I do a live stream, and you could watch it directly from the app. So anyway, let's get this going here. I will, by the way, see if I can get Joe Rayo on tomorrow night for the Friday live stream with these storm systems going on. See if I can bring him on and get his commentary and his opinions on all of this. Come on, really? Here we go. All right, so let's bring up the Pacific animation loop. And I'm going to go out. We'll update it to 96 frames. And we can watch all of this. So remember, we talked about yesterday how there was a break in the tropical feed. Well, that break is now no longer there. Okay, I'll be bringing that up. Pacific picture is up. Hang on. There we go. Look at how impressive that system is. That upper low that's sitting out in the Pacific to the northeast of Hawaii. It's just driving all this tropical moisture deep down from the Pacific tropics to the northeast, and that is heading straight for California. So is it any wonder that WPC is forecasting those big rain amounts in California out of all of this? So this is our energy. And if you look also, there's an upper low sitting off the coast of Washington and Oregon, sitting out there as well. So these two strong upper lows really kind of driving everything that is happening, that is going to be happening over the next 4 days. So this system very, very important once it gets ashore and they sample it. We'll see how models handle it. Because, by the way, I don't, when we talk about the models and what we're going to do, I am still not at all convinced of anything that the models are showing at the moment, and neither should you, by the way. I was reading some of your comments on the chat board tonight. It's too early to make an absolute, to come to an absolute conclusion how all of this is going to play out. It's not to say that the models are right or wrong, but I want to get you guys out of the habit of looking at the models without the context of what's happening with the upper air. I'd rather you have the context first and let the models come to you. That's really the plan here. So here's our surface map tonight with these weak systems in the east. You've got a low in eastern North Carolina. Cold high over Lake Ontario. We've had northerly winds here today, and that kept the temperatures from getting much above the mid-30s in a lot of areas. And we're seeing that cold air draining down tonight. So there are no rain issues with the system that is coming up, but it's very weak. So it really is a matter of that precip holding together. That I think is the big key, and it will hold together through the night. But early tomorrow morning, when that moisture is moving into New Jersey and Long Island and southeastern New York, at that point it's going to start to weaken, and that's going to limit the snowfall. This is a minor event, the first one, and then we've got other lows with the second system that's coming out. Will be coming out of the Gulf states, and that is going to be a bit more productive and a bit more robust when it comes in for Friday night and for Saturday. And I have my ideas on how that may play out as well. You're going to find that not so much with the one tonight, but for the system on Friday night and Saturday, and my early, very speculative view on the Sunday system, that I'm not, I'm going to be probably going against what some of the models are doing, and I have my reasons for it. And then, of course, we go out to the west, and we're waiting for that, the low with the upper low off Washington and Oregon here. The surface low is pretty weak. We still don't have in view the second stronger system that is going to be coming on shore. A quick check out in the Atlantic from eastern Canada, still under the influence of a strong storm, the strong storm that moved out 968 low that is sitting south of Greenland here. I didn't. They added all this. I didn't realize that they did, but we can go out this far. But that low is off the southern tip of Greenland and moving out to the east. We do not see much Atlantic storm traffic here. This is another important issue with regards to the system for later in the weekend, because without any systems out there of size, it is going to prevent a storm, or at least argue against a storm climbing up the East Coast. So we bear that in mind. That's why the second storm tomorrow night is so important, because if that winds up going out there and just hanging out and stalling for a while, that could mean that you would wind up with a storm with a more inland track. But if it goes out and just keeps on moving, then there's nothing to stop what's coming to the east, that's coming to the east for Sunday, to try to do the same thing. So just, again, bear that in mind as we go forward. So we're going to take a look at the forecast that I'm thinking of as first for tonight. And we have winter weather advisories that are up for southwestern New Jersey, much of southern Pennsylvania, down into Maryland and Delaware and northeastern Virginia. So I kind of beefed up the numbers ever so slightly here for the overnight. The models were trying to show that the precip holds on maybe for an extra hour or so, and that might be enough to put down an extra half an inch or an inch in some places. It's frustrating for me, if only because of the fact that these types of systems are oftentimes a lot harder than the big ones in terms of trying to come up with some kind of a forecast, because of the fact that you have so much variability in play. Look what happened last night. the system up in upstate New York and into New England just completely fell apart. They wind up with many areas wound up getting less than half of the snow amounts that were being predicted. The thing was just, it just fell apart. And I actually wound up getting a coating out of it this morning. There was a band that developed and moved southeastward overnight and produced a light coating of snow over Long Island and parts of North Jersey, the Hudson Valley, and in through Connecticut. Parts of Connecticut may have gotten a little bit more. I didn't look at the specific snow amounts, but that system just died out. And it's been wise this year to kind of be on the low end of numbers. So perhaps it's a little bit of a surprise. I'm surprising myself by wanting to beef the numbers up a bit. But I did just ever so slightly. I put much of Central and South Jersey in a zone of 1 to maybe 2 inches, and then 2 to 3 from just west of Philadelphia to Reading and points west from there. And then I have this finger of 3 to maybe some 4-inch amounts. I didn't want to go too crazy, but this should be, I think, the maximum. I don't think there's a whole lot of room for upside unless the models are wrong about the precip falling apart over time. We'll also jump to the system for Friday night and for Saturday morning. Now here's where I kind of went maybe a little bit different from what some of the models are doing. So I stuck in a band of 1 to 2 inches for northern New Jersey, slushy 1 to 2, Long Island, and then a expanding band of 2 to maybe 4 inches across southern New England, through Connecticut, and in through southeastern Massachusetts and Rhode Island. I've got my reasons for this. I think this low is going to, it's a compact little system, and the atmosphere is borderline cold. There's not a whole lot of warm air moving up. It's borderline cold in my view. So if you get a little bit of vertical motion in the atmosphere, a little bit of lift, you get some dynamic cooling. In other words, cooling from the top down. And I'm really not talking about very much here. That could be the difference between rain and sleet or some wet snow. And plus, we're talking about a slushy couple of inches. 2 to 4 as you go north. It is the kind of system, by the way, that sometimes upside surprises can come out of. I'm not seeing that at the moment, but this is the kind of system where you could wind up with an upside surprise. So we're going to turn now to the weather maps, and I want to start off with a little bit of the paint box, which we haven't done in a while. So let's bring up the trusty paint box and take a look at what is going on with respect to the jet stream. I'm going to start off with nope, that's not the one I'm going to start off with. I want to start off with this guy. Actually, that wasn't it either. Where did it go? There you go. It disappeared on me. Okay, so I've brought up here what the upper air jet stream looks like at the moment. And I honestly think that the state of the jet stream across Canada is part of this very chaotic mess that we have. And by the way, notice that all across the Arctic regions right now, all up through the entire Arctic Circle. There we go. This whole region up here, we have higher than normal pressures and higher than normal heights. And that is suppressing the cold air. This is part of that relaxation of the pattern that we had, part of the process. And this is favoring colder air that is sinking southward. But in the jet stream pattern, the old storm from last week, earlier in the week, that went to the Great Lakes over the weekend, that was really the driver in this change, and that is sitting south of the southern tip of Greenland right now. But it really is the only thing that's out there, because if you look at the jet stream flow in the Atlantic, it's a straight line straight across. It's in fact, that flat flow extends from the Pacific right across the U.S. The only thing that what's keeping this from being warm is the fact that you have this upper low off the southern tip of Greenland, but then you've got this, okay, this complex upper low that's rotating around and around, and that is also keeping the jet further south than average. And with the activity going on, of course, you've got the system off the Pacific Northwest, and you have this system that's northeast of Hawaii. So it's from here that you're getting that tropical feed that's going to come in. I honestly believe that the models going out beyond the 2 to 3 day time frame are having a very, very difficult time handling all of this and handling how they're going to resolve the issue going forward. And I'm going to jump now to the 72-hour forecast of the, this is Sunday afternoon, and off the GFS. Notice that the very broad nature of this trough, this upper low that is sitting east of James Bay, and it's like a bowl that's pushing downward. Sometimes, when you get these storms, you get intense storms in the east. You're usually going to see a trough that's going to look more like this, more V-shaped. All right, and if you did, it would sort of make sense that you would have a low that if there's a low coming out in the southern stream, that low is going to try to take a track up, up to the either inland of the coast or even further left than this. But you don't really have that. Let me just reopen this and hang on. Sorry. I'm going to switch back. There, that's what I want to do. Let me just get rid of the drawing and bring this map back up. You don't really have that here. You have this flow that runs pretty much straight west to east. Now, this is Sunday afternoon. So if we've got a low that is coming out from down here, okay, if the ridge here off the east coast doesn't pop up enough, it's fairly flat here. If it doesn't pop up enough, then you're going to wind up trying to take a low that is further south and more suppressed. And this is what I'm banking on, okay, with regards to my ideas for Sunday night into Monday. I don't know if I'm going to get it exactly correct. I probably won't with regards to my outlook for Sunday into Monday. I'm kind of going for a colder solution, but it's all going to hinge on the system for Friday night and Saturday morning, and whether it just can keep on going and keep the Atlantic absent of any traffic. If you wind up with something that gets locked up, say south and east of Nova Scotia, then you're going to wind up popping up this ridge in the east, and you're going to drive a low that's going to try and track along or more inland of the coast. I honestly believe that is not going to be the case here. Okay, I'm putting my thoughts on the table with regards to it. So let's get back to the maps and take a look at where the GFS is taking us going forward. Just give me 1 second. I want to clean up my screen a little bit here. I don't need this, and I don't need that. I don't need that. Okay, so we got that gone. All right, so let's run through the GFS. By the way, the chat board is going to stay open after the live stream stops for a little while. I will be there, so if you've got any questions or comments, I will be there to respond. So let's take a look at what's happening here with this weak low that comes out for tonight into tomorrow morning. There's barely a low analyzed by the GFS there tomorrow during the early morning hours on Friday. An area of snow and rain that by 7 a.m. is moving in. You actually have a bit of, you have a low sitting in eastern North Carolina, very weak, high pressure up in northern New Hampshire, so a little bit of cold air damming going on. So you've got something to work with for a little while, but you'll notice that by 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it's just about all gone, because now you're going to have this second low coming in and being the main driver. How much cold air is going to be left is a question for tomorrow night into Saturday morning. But you don't have a wrapped up low here, so it's not like warm air is going to come screaming in from off the ocean. So that low is off the Virginia coast. Now, I think it's going to be a little bit colder on the northern fringe of this. The NAM is along those lines, and I'm kind of going with that idea. Meanwhile, if you look on the left side, you can see the powerhouse that is about to come in to California. There's your energy for the Sunday storm, or at least some of it, that's going to translate east of the Rockies. Meanwhile, our low here off the Virginia coast is south and east of New Jersey by Saturday morning. And you'll notice there on the GFS, there's a dark blue shading that's right along southern Connecticut and back up to maybe into Westchester County or northeastern New Jersey. This is why I put that 1 to 2 and that small band of 2 to 4. I think that there's a pretty good chance of this happening. And there's your low as it moves away to the northeast. The model actually deepens that low down to, I can't see what the pressure is. 994 as it moves south and east of Nova Scotia. And now you've got your energy coming out for the Sunday system. Meanwhile, big cold high to the north is beginning to spread cold air eastward. And where we are in the coastal areas of the Northeast, it's always a problem timing the arrival of the cold air and a storm that's developing on a stalling front. That is always very, very difficult. And most times, the storm comes through first, and then the cold air comes in afterward. Sometimes it doesn't, depending on the upper air, and that's what you're going to have to hope for here, is that the flattish nature of the pattern is what is more correct than something that has a bit more amplitude. And the late afternoon GFS run has a bit more of a suppressed look than its prior run. You've got a low in central Georgia and snow that is moving up into New Jersey and into eastern Pennsylvania and to Long Island. One of the things to look for as a clue here, all right, if it starts snowing in upstate New York and in western New England before it starts snowing in Long Island or New Jersey or in southeastern Pennsylvania, then you're talking about a low that's going to be tracking just inland of the coast. If it comes in like this, snow lovers have a shot. And then that low moves out to the northeast, passes very close to the 4070 benchmark, and the GFS on this run actually kept the immediate coastal areas, Long Island and back through New Jersey, as mostly snow, as that low runs out to the northeast. I think this is actually could wind up being flatter when it's all said and done. When we look at the upper air, here we go, upper air time. Again, notice the bowl nature of that trough in the eastern part of the United States. It's not sharp. I'll back it up, and there's you do have a lead shortwave, by the way, that's running into eastern Canada. That's also quite important. Right into Sunday morning, you still have a mostly west-east flow. The trough is beginning to swing around into the plains and Great Lakes, and this is where you get this little bit of ridging here in the east. All right. Now let's look out in the Atlantic, because that's where that ridge is going to get some help or not get some help. All right. Our system for Friday night into Saturday is sitting southeast of Nova Scotia here, and as this is Sunday morning. If this system is too deep, if this system is too strong, that's going to try to bring the ridge up here in the eastern part of the United States. If this winds up just getting kicked along to the east, which is what the GFS is trying to do, that's going to keep things much flatter. Now let's look at the European, because the European has the most developed and most wrapped up system in its run for today. And we'll see how it handles that system in the Atlantic. Perhaps you could argue that because it goes from this to this, with this cutoff low out in the central Atlantic, that it brings up the ridge in the east. We're not talking about a lot here. See, that's the thing. It's really pretty close as far as bringing that ridge up. It's not bringing it up a lot, a handful of meters, but that may make the difference in a situation like this. And I think the European is probably doing that because it takes this system from south of Nova Scotia and then has what looks like a fairly small but well-developed system out in the central Atlantic by the time we get to Monday. The GFS, as we just saw, I believe it had a much, it's a little less deep. Still has a cutoff, but it's a tighter cutoff and it's a bit less deep than what the European has. So, that really is key. If there's a lack of traffic out in the Atlantic, it's going to, the system's going to want to go more to the east than to the north. That we've seen that a number of times this year, back in December, back in early January, and we've also seen examples where, remember that one system in late January that wound up moving up the coast, just inland of the coast. That the situation was a bit different in terms of the upper air because we had the Pacific Jet was more involved, and I think there was, if I remember correctly, that we didn't have this big upper low sitting here like we do in James Bay. So I'm favoring the idea of a flatter look. The old European, by the way, and my understanding is that the 18Z was not that much different, which really doesn't necessarily tell us much. But the surface low on the European, and there you have it. Now I have a real problem with this. Where is all this amplitude coming from? That's the thing I'm not understanding. How is it that the Europeans got, there's an 88 low sitting out south of Nova Scotia by Sunday morning, and an 04 low in southwestern Arkansas. Just want to compare that to the GFS. I can't see what the pressure is. I suppose it could be close to an 88 there, but the GFS has a 1,008 low here, so the pressures are not quite as low. Has a bit of a flatter look to it. And here's the European. European's got a bit more robustness to that low. I'm not sure if I believe that. And then by Monday morning, it's sitting in southeastern Massachusetts as a 986 low. I just don't know how it gets to getting a low that deep. I didn't look close. I didn't look close enough to see where the actual surface low goes in between. I can tell you from the standpoint of where the rain snow line is, it isn't anywhere close to New York City or Philadelphia. It's way north and west of those areas. So this would being big snows probably for central Pennsylvania to western PA, upstate New York, and in central and northern New England and everybody else, it would be mostly rain. But I don't understand, given the fact that the European model has been really just not good this winter, and yet everybody still seems to sort of reflexively gravitate to it, and they, you seem to want to get validation of a colder solution by expecting the European to give it to you. I just don't know whether, why would you do that, considering that the model has been the way it is. Now, I've kind of gone full circle on this. My initial impression was that this was going to wind up cutting, and I've come away from that. Now I'm kind of on the other end of the extreme here, where I think this thing is going to wind up being more suppressed. We're going to get our answer tomorrow. Either I'm going to be tomorrow or Saturday. I'm either going to be very right or very wrong. But hey, this might be the last shot for any kind of important precip events here, snow-wise. So I figured I might as well roll the dice. And after that, by the way, it's just cold and dry through much of this week. There really isn't too much happening with the weather going this coming week. The Europeans got some kind of weak system in the southeast for Friday, and then it moves out, and high pressure builds in for next weekend. But we've got this window of opportunity. That's the Europeans' view. The GFS has a bit of a different view of things, but we've got this opportunity with regards to getting a snow event or two out of it. And if it doesn't happen now, I still think that by mid-month we're going to wind up seeing a big change. Now, here's what I did for Sunday. This is an early, very speculative. This is what I'm thinking for Sunday. I'm betting on, let's assume, okay, let's assume that we have, this is our Friday night into Saturday forecast. So let me show you the map I did for Sunday. Now you might say, Joe, this is a pretty, it's a very early, very speculative idea. I am banking on a more suppressed look overall. If that is the case, I think that in a situation like this, with a relatively fast-moving system, that you have the potential for a 3 to 6 inch snowfall in the max area. And I've drawn the max area. Pretty much the southern end of 3 would be around Philadelphia, Trenton, north of Washington, D.C., Baltimore, to about Sandy Hook. So that would take the northern half of New Jersey, much of eastern and northeastern Pennsylvania, southeastern New York, Connecticut, southeastern Mass. Puts you in a 3 to 6 inch zone. Could early speculative call, banking on a suppressed look. I could wind up being very wrong. I could wind up being somewhat wrong if it's suppressed but not suppressed enough. Maybe that southern edge of 3 to 6 cuts just inland of New York City and the coast. I don't know. And then that 1 to 3 inch line would be further north. So I'm going for it here. Okay, I may be wrong. I think I have some support from the model, so I'm not really pulling this out of thin air, and I'm just basically looking at what the overall pattern has been and how things have behaved. Maybe this is our best chance, and well, actually, it may be our best chance because down the road, I still think after mid-month we're going to go over to a Pacific. The Pacific jet's going to come back at some point, but checking out the upper air, I mean, this is pretty cold here for this coming week. Part of that trough pulls out. You still, on the European, you still attempt to get some troughing into the eastern part of the United States. We'll look at the GFS because we can at least look at the in-betweens here. So you've got this eastern trough that starts to pull out late in the week. Some more west coast energy comes eastward, and here comes another trough that swings into the east. By the way, you'll notice that that blocking high that's sitting up in the Arctic regions in northwest Canada just falls apart after 72 hours. And then gradually, as we move through time, that fire hose Pacific jet comes roaring back. All right? Take a look at what happens here after day 10 and 11. The trough pulls out completely, and the Pacific jet is back to its old tricks with the fire hose solution and a big ridge in the east. No blocking to speak of. This would be right around after the 11th or 12th of the month. It would suggest a warm-up. Models have been very consistent in showing this going into the long range. So whatever we're going to do, it's going to be between now and March 10th, March 11th, and then after that, I think we're done. It's not like last year, folks. There's no blocking up here in the Atlantic at all. You've got low pressures across Greenland down into the North Atlantic. You have the exact opposite of what you had going on last year. While we have this up, let's take a look. You know what? Let's bring the ensembles. I didn't see what the 18Z ensembles did. So because now that it came in with this more suppressed look. So for those of you who aren't too familiar with the ensembles, it's not a tool that I look at a lot because, to me, it's basically taking 22 different variations of the same model and then just averaging it, averaging them together. So if you try to forecast straight off the ensembles, I think all you're going to wind up doing is getting average results. But and I don't want to get average results. I want to get above average results. But if we look at the ensembles here as we come into the first system, now in 48 hours, you can understand that it's going to have all its members. If you notice the little red numbers there, it's hard to see the actual numbers. That's the pressure that it's forecasting. But they're all pretty clustered together. As we go out in time, you're going to see those numbers spread out further and further apart as you get more and more variations to what happens. And then the isobars that are drawn is the average position of everything. So it basically has the surface low Saturday morning at, this is actually Saturday afternoon, sitting at 39 and 70. So you wonder, again, might this mean a colder solution to things for Friday night into Saturday morning? Now here comes your system for Sunday on the ensembles, and you have a low in southeastern Virginia here. Okay, they all seem to be clustered. Actually, for a 84-hour forecast, those plots are not that far apart. So it has a low clustered in southeastern Virginia, and they all seem to take it south. You have a cluster of lows south and east of Montauk. Now, it's probably a shade. The operational run is probably on the southern end of this envelope here, but there's room for a little bit more of a shifting to the south, I think. And now we're going to watch to see what the models do and how they adjust for the next several runs. But this does suggest an offshore track. The vast majority of the surface low plots are offshore and not too far from the like at 39 and 71, 40 and 71, 40 and 71. A few of them out there at 40, near just north of 40 and 70, which is a benchmark that a lot of folks in my area they use in order to define where a storm should go in order to produce snow along the coast. The problem with the benchmark is I don't remember the last time a storm went to the benchmark. Okay, it's been quite a while. A few have gone close to the benchmark, but not very many have gone within 60 miles of the benchmark. Yet somehow we have managed to pull off some big snows without it. And of course, you have a cluster of lows that wind up in the Gulf of Maine and heading to Nova Scotia. So the ensembles kind of lend some confidence to a more suppressed look. Last thing we're going to look at is the icon model, which has done, has actually performed fairly well in the last few weeks. And the icon, which has a wetter look with the first system to some degree, although it does produce snows in southern New England out of this and on to the north and east. Then as it pulls away, the next system for Sunday comes in. The icon late this afternoon, and it's been more suppressed than the other models, is even more suppressed late this afternoon. It's got a weaker low further south, comes off the northeastern North Carolina, and stays pretty flat as it moves out to the northeast. It doesn't develop into a wrapped up low like the European has. If you get this idea, then my forecast, and by the way, I did my forecast map. I did not look at the icon, okay? I did my forecast map based on what I had seen so far, and the icon just happened to see my forecast map today and decided that it wanted to look like that, okay? But I try and do, I look at everything, and today I just didn't happen to get to this, the 18Z icon until late, but I have an idea of how, after looking at various models, and then, it kind of hits me as to where I want to put the snow areas based on that. But this is the solution you snow lovers want, or something resembling this: flatter low, south and east, and then moving on out. If the argument that there's not a whole lot of traffic out in the Atlantic to drive this thing to turn more northeast or northeast up the coast, I think there's a fair chance that we could see this play out in a favorable way for snow lovers. The one maybe and only time that something like that has happened for this winter. So you've got my opinions here, and we may wind up changing tomorrow, but we'll see. Avery Johnson, the icon is not trash. It has lurked. If those that have been paying attention will have noticed that the icon model has been working very well lately on a lot of things. Doesn't mean it'll get this one right, but you know what? You try to go with the one that has the hot hand. The parallel GFS has been horrible and has been trashed. Has been trash, especially in the longer range, and it is not even being released now anymore. It was supposed to become the operational run on March 20th, and the Weather Service announced the other day that they're holding back on it because of all the problems that they have had. And the European has been terrible. The European, remember, folks, how many snowstorms? It's probably had over a dozen snowstorms on the map in the last 2 months. Not a single one, not for the coastal areas. Not a single one of those has verified. Not one. It's just as unreliable as any of the other models that are out there. It's the ensemble further west for tonight compared to what it was showing last night. Well, the system for are you talking about? Are you talking about the system for Sunday, Izzy? It is. It's a little more northwest. Yesterday's ensembles were fairly suppressed to the southeast. It has come more northwestward, but there's room to maneuver here. I think what we're seeing is models just kind of trying to figure out, and with all that chaos up through the polar region. You're seeing models having a really difficult time. My big problem with a robust westerly track is the overall state of the jet stream looking so flat. I just, I'm having a tough time figuring out how you're going to get a low moving just inland of the coast, up the coast in the fashion that the European has in an upper pattern like this. Now, it may shame me tomorrow, okay? It may certainly shame me tomorrow if it winds up that that's going to be the final solution. But the wonderful thing about weather is that we can have this mystery until we get it until we get things all figured out. Cold air coming in behind it, Sean Jordan. Absolutely. Yeah, the rest of this is going to be, we're going to have a couple of days in my area where temperatures are not going to get out of the 20s. I think Wednesday and maybe, Tuesday and Wednesday, maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I think 2 out of those 3 days, you're going to see many areas down near me that are going to have a tough time getting back to 30. And there are probably going to be a lot of inland areas that are going to get much above the low and mid 20s. Julianne Steele, thank you so much for hitting Super Chat tonight. I really, really appreciate it greatly. Thank you. And I know you've downloaded my weather app and you enjoy it, so I hope that it has served you well up your way. And we, always good to see you here on board. One of our regulars who watches by way of the Canadian Maritime provinces. Let's see. I should do an educational video on all the models. That's on the list of things to do with my instructional videos. I did like 4 of them in a span of 5 days when I had a bit of a break time, and then Jason Barry, these weather systems started bursting onto the scene, and I haven't had time. So as soon as things settle down, I have a whole list of things, a list of instructional videos that I want to do, and I think that is definitely a good idea to just kind of go through each of the models that are available and see what they tell us. Hey, let me see if the new SREF model is up, or what we call the plumes. Okay, so hang on one second. I will bring that up in short order. As soon as my browser decides to respond, and hopefully I won't lose you guys. The signal here sometimes is just awful. Oh, come on. Seriously? All right, folks, the web browser has decided to take a vacation on me and not respond, so I can't check the SREF. So it's coming up on 8:20. Oh, glory, hallelujah. Thank you. The SREF usually comes out between 8 and 9 o'clock, but mostly between 8:30 and 9. Every once in a while, it does start to piecemeal its way in early. So what we use the SREF model for is it's a model that's Stony Brook University, and it's got about 26 or 7 members, and it plots all sorts of different parameters, including total snowfall. And it'll give us an idea, at least it'll give us some sort of idea here as to what it is thinking. All right, so I've just pulled up iSlip, and it goes out to 96 hours. So this is actually going to take us to Monday morning. All right, doesn't give much. Gives about a half an inch of snow overnight. Another half an inch for Thursday night, Friday morning. Again, this is for iSlip. And then it looks like it gives about an inch and a half of snow for Sunday night into Monday. So that's iSlip. So let's pull up New York City if it's in. So that it gives iSlip an inch and a half of snow actually tells me that from the SREF standpoint, the rain-snow line is, unlike the European, which would have it raining all the way up into northwest New Jersey, it's quite different here. Now, for White Plains, it gives White Plains 3 inches. All right, so that's interesting. That the SREF is actually a little more suppressed and a bit colder, so it gives White Plains 3 inches. I don't have a plot for New York City yet. Let's look at Poughkeepsie in the Hudson Valley. So Poughkeepsie actually gets a couple of inches from the Friday night system, and then it goes from, it gives them another 3, and of course there's still a little bit more to go. So it gives them 3 inches for Sunday night into Monday. You know, by the way, we should point out too, you know, one of the other possibilities here is that we could wind up with a flatter system. We're also going to wind up with a weaker system. So snow amounts, the max snow amounts may wind up coming down. Just bear that in mind, that is a possibility. Be very careful. Be very, very careful using some of the snow maps. You've got 3 events here in play. So if you use the total snow and you see a big number, you got to remember, you got to go back and subtract out 2 events. If you're on Tropical Tidbits, on some of the models, he has a 24-hour snowfall forecast map. So that at least will separate the storms out for you. Very, very important for you to do. Philadelphia, not in yet. Let's go to Lancaster. Now, it gives Lancaster almost 4 inches with the event for tonight, believe it or not. Very little for the event tomorrow night into Saturday morning. And then it goes from 4 to 6. So it gives 2 for the system for Sunday night. I'm trying, and one of the things about the SREF model, by the way, is that as we get closer to the time frame of a system, it winds up, picking up on it more, so you'll see amounts going up. So Scranton, it gives an inch tonight, another inch tomorrow night, and then it gives about 3.5. So look for the SREF numbers to trend higher. That's one of the important things about the SREF, is not the number that it prints so much, but which way is it trending. You look for the direction that the model is trending either higher or lower as you get closer and closer to event. That's usually a better way to use the tool than to just look at the average number that's produced by the 26 different members. Just for an example here, I'm going to go back to iSlip on Long Island. Now, for Sunday, for example, while the average total snowfall over the next 3 days is 2.5 inches, just under 2.5 inches, There is one member that produces 10 inches for the 3 storms, and 2 other members that produce at least 6. So there's a whole bunch of them that produce an inch or less. So when you use the average number, it really, if you use an average number all the time of 26 members, your performance is going to be average. And more often than not, the actual solution of a particular weather system is not going to lie in the mean, but it's going to lie somewhere above it or below it. And you want to be, as a forecaster, where the actual solution is and not necessarily where the average is. All right, so look, we're going to wrap it up at this point. The chat board is going to stay on for a little while, stay open. So if you've got any questions, I'll be sitting here and I'll respond to them. Thanks so much always for being here. I really, really appreciate it. Izzy D, thank you for hitting Super Chat tonight. Really, very much appreciated. Thank you. And I hope you're having fun with the Patreon platform. Izzy took a while, but he finally figured out how to get on the Patreon platform, which is, a great place. I think a few people have told me if you want extra weather, extended weather coverage, and really get into it, you're a weather enthusiast, you're a weather geek, this is a pretty good place to be. We do a lot of extra stuff that we don't do on websites and extra live streams. You can message me at any time. It's $2 a month, and the link is up there. Victor McCullum from the great city of Chicago. Welcome aboard. Chicago is one of on my list of places to go to because I want to go to Arlington to the racetrack and hear John Dooley call a race live. But one of these days, I am going to get up to your city, and I also want to ride the L because I'm a subway buff, and I love elevated trains. So that's also going to be on my list of things to do when I move up to Chicago. And anyway, one other. Let me just bring up my link to those of you who would like my weather app, which is absolutely free. You can download it. It's available for all mobile devices, and there is the link up there for you. So we've got that there. You've got your Patreon link up on the chat board. Patty Durkle, thank you so much for hitting Super Chat tonight. I really, really appreciate it. And one other thing, again, for those of you who want to use the Amazon link to do your shopping, here it is. Doesn't cost you an extra cent. If you're shopping on Amazon, they throw me back a little bit of coin, and I get a few cigars out of the deal, and it's on them, and it doesn't come out of your pocket. So thank you very much. Patty Durkle, yes, thank you so much for hitting Super Chat tonight and for being here. Johnny Quest, do one group of people make one model and another group of people make another? Well, the European model is that's a private company in that has that model, and that's why it's so tough to share, because they have only a very limited amount of their product is available in the public domain, and the rest of it you got to pay for. And even if you pay for it, you can't really. They get upset if you wind up sharing it on other platforms. So the European is a private company, and as a private company, they have an advantage because they actually can spend more money and do it in a faster way than the GFS model, which is something that comes from our own National Weather Service and from NOAA. So if they want to improve the model, they have to go to Congress to get appropriations to make improvements and to do upgrades. So it does kind of put the GFS at a bit of a disadvantage to the European, because the European folks, well, they can just they come up with the money and they privately, and they can do what they want whenever they want. So I also believe that the idea, we've had all these upgrades recently, and I believe what Bill Goodman said about it, which is the fact that the more data that they seem to put into these things, the worse that these models are becoming. Perhaps they're cramming it with too much information, and it's having some impact in how the models behave. I think that's a very good observation. I would just add, though, that in terms of what models do, if people perhaps got away from looking at them from run to run and taking them as literal solutions, and actually sitting down and figuring out what the weather actually is doing, okay, and what the jet stream pattern actually is doing, it gives you a big advantage, because then you understand what's happening when it happens. So if when models start to change and they come toward your line of thinking, you're not going to be all that surprised, okay? How come on radio like 88 and 1010 they're saying mixed to rain Sunday night? Well, you're going to have to ask them, Izzy D. You're forecast shopping, okay? You're forecast shopping. But that is another forecaster's interpretation of what the models showed today. Now, again, I have given you my opinion. It's a very speculative view on what I think is going to happen for later Sunday into Sunday night. And I could be sitting here tomorrow night and I could throw in the towel, okay? But I believe, at least at this instance, I have good reasons for thinking that this is going to be a suppressed, weaker look as we go forward, and we still have a couple of days for models to settle in, particularly because of the chaotic nature of the weather pattern across Canada and the Pacific, and the lack of activity in the Atlantic. That's my mindset. We'll see. The new NAM is going to start soon. We'll see if that starts giving hints of maybe that it will be more suppressed, or then again, maybe not. We'll find out soon enough. Westwood Library, folks, in Westwood, New Jersey. I will be there 7 o'clock on Tuesday, March the 12th. Okay, so do please come out if you can. We have a good hour and a half of weather talk and weather discussion. The Northern New Jersey Weather Observers will be there as well to be part of the crowd, and we'll have some fun. The Joe and Joe Weather Show, Jason Barry, will be coming up at 9:25 tonight. We'll probably be live streaming the new NAM, and we'll go from there. Bobby Livingsworth, no, not yet. The storm is not coming in until later tomorrow and tomorrow night. That energy is going to be streaming in there into California beginning later tomorrow. But it's loading up big time, as we showed on the Pacific loop earlier, loading up big time out there in the Pacific. There's a ton of energy and a ton of tropical moisture that is coming in to the West Coast. Okay, chat board's going to be open, and I'll respond to whatever questions I can. Bill Uber, I appreciate the offer. I will probably actually be going there Monday night and staying with some friends for Tuesday, so I could be nearby. But I appreciate the offer. Thank you so much with regards to maybe carpooling over there. Hopefully you can come out. But it's tough. I'm already close to Jersey from where I work, so I figured I'll just go over there Monday night instead of driving all the way back to Long Island and then coming out all the way east. Earl Warren, the Weather Channel's name is Icon, like Carl Icahn. Honestly, the naming of winter storms is just why. It's a Weather Channel thing. It's so ridiculous. It really is. Once upon a time, years and years ago, I thought maybe, well, why don't they do that? And now I understand why. It's just a selling point for them, and it really is such a. It's just silly. It really is silly. It's a great way for them to try to make money, but and to drive viewership, but it's utterly silly. Okay, that's my never to be humble opinion tonight. Thanks for being here. And I got some TV to do. So see you on the Joe and Joe show tonight at 9:25. Johnny Quest, you didn't have to do that. Thank you so much for hitting Super Chat tonight. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And must probably see you on the Joe and Joe show coming up in about 55 minutes, less than 55 minutes from now. Good night, everybody.